Able to have that one-on-one aspect with some of the youth from the DFW. This is Channing Humphrey with Semi-Pro Live. A little bit of a special guest. We have Kayla from the show Bring It here to know or be on the lookout as they try to become D1 athletes and further their careers.
The one thing I always tell kids when I talk to them before football, anything, make sure you take care of your schoolwork. Make sure you listen to your parents, teachers, coaches, be appreciative of them, because the things they do, they go outside the boundaries to help you get to where you're trying to be when you're playing football. You know,
I was calling coaches, college coaches. We calling the majors D1 to the higher D2. We're calling coaches.
Yes, we got Reggie Swinton, former Dallas Cowboy great, former Detroit Lion, and he was in the NFL longer than, I've done anything else in my life, so I'm probably missing an NFL team or two. But man,
when I go there, I'm gonna get bigger. That's in my head. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get bigger for sure.
Hey man, this is a coach's dream. You introduce yourself to our audience. The Semi-Pro Live audience doesn't know you. I know you very well, but Jim Pointer of Lamar High School.
Well, thank you. That's really, really nice of you. And boy, I have to tell you a quick story. That's sixth grade.
Tough. I was fighting it. I've been fighting it for my whole life, pretty much. So freshman year,
Arlington, Texas. I'm out here. I have the pleasure of bringing one of the hometown cats who's made good, man. I have Madre Harper, secondary player for the New York Giants. Biggest pleasure I've had of today. We got NFL star Akeem Talib out here with his unit, NDU, North Dallas out here representing. So, man, tell me a little bit more about Team Tax.
You know what? These guys, they play hard, man. I have nothing but the utmost respect for Coach Don Smith and what he does with that Highland Park team, and they're always consistently pushing us to be better. And these guys just show up, right? They show up. We
see Roy Williams. Now, man, I just wanted to take a moment to see what you're doing out here with Coach Reggie.
And Coach Reggie got me out here in this heat with these kids, man. So, anything for the kids out here coaching this all-star event that Coach Reggie's put together, man. It's a great event, first annual, and I see good things coming from years to come.
All right, man. So, this is Channing Humphrey with Semi-Pro Live. We are back for another edition of the Cce Draft. We're going to be doing Cce Class of 2026. I've got my man Courtney Jackson. He's a well-known figure in the youth football arena and the head coach of the DEA Dragons. So I'm going to bring him in, let him tell us a little bit more about this program, CCE, what he hopes to accomplish, and then we'll get right to the business. So, Courtney, tell us about this awesome program that you've put together.
CCE All-Star, we call it the CCE T-Pass. It's the Top Prospect All-Star Series. There's not many All-Star games out there that I feel like that give and do as much for the kids as we do. It is really, really geared towards these kids being treated as if this is their Pro Bowl, this is their Senior Bowl opportunity. It is business, but it is also an opportunity to just smell the roses while you're still in the opportunity of being a good player. Not everybody's career is going to end up with you in the Hall of Fame, despite what people believe. So, when these kids work hard, we want to be able to acknowledge them. We also want to acknowledge talented coaches who've helped pave the way, who've inspired these kids to be the best that they could be. And sometimes they're the ones that's taking them to the games, picking them up, getting them a dinner on the way back home, all those things in here. And this is our exit level, our 8th grade level. It's only 4 teams. And if you have a chance to ever go back and watch our 8th grade games last year, they went into overtime, and each game was decided on the last play of the game, literally. I mean, it was great. It's a great accumulation of talent from all across the state of Texas. And we probably had about 25 to 30 kids that were representing other states that were here in the game. The unique part of it is that, you have people that are playing in this exit level. They've been with me since we first started doing all-star games. Some of these kids were 8 years old when we had our 8U and 10U game, and now they're in 8th grade. Some of these guys are on the cusp, are starting to be able to receive recruiting attention. And so we want to really, really see who is going to be number one. when it's all said and done out of this class of 2026.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's get to Team Mamba. So, Coach, what university in the state of Texas will the CCE class of 2026 represent?
They represent 8th grade.
I'm sorry. What University of Texas team?
Okay, Mamba is TCU. They'll be wearing the colors of purple, white, purple, and black.
All right. Well, they'll have on those icy TCU jerseys. Let's get to the business at hand. We'll start off with the coaches. We'll have Coach Ashton, Coach Wilkins, and Coach Canada. So tell us about this coaching staff.
Well, you got Jason Alston. This is going to be his 3rd year doing this with us. He came to Houston 2 years ago, then came to Dallas this past year, and each year he's competed. He coaches on the high school level out in the DC area. He looks forward to it, and we look forward to seeing him. I know he has a bitter taste in his mouth because last year didn't go like he wanted it to go. Then you have one of my OGs, Calvin Tank Wilkins, who is with the NTX Bills, has 2 boys in the program. And the oldest one being Calvin Wilkins, I guess Jr. We call him Tank, a baby Tank. He's been here for a long time. Last year he got hurt right before the game, so he could not participate. But I look forward to seeing him dominate that interior and see his dad. He's a hell of a defensive coach. I can't tell him that to his face, but he's a good defensive coach. And then you have Coach Canada. Coach Canada is another guy who's strong on the line, and he helps me out with a lot of my kids out of the Central Texas area. So that is the coaching staff of those 3. It's their first time working together, but I can tell you this: this team is going to not give up many points. They're going to be great in the trenches, and they're going to be dynamic on offense. That's what I can tell you with this coaching staff.
All right. Without further ado, let's get to the stars of the show. Once again, before we get started, these picks are in no particular order, just grouped by position. And the first quarterback we'll announce is Jaden McLemore, quarterback, RSA Knights. We got Brent Rickard. He's a quarterback from the DFW. Preston Davis, quarterback from Duncanville. Javon Peters, quarterback from Temple. Tommy Lewis, offensive lineman from the great state of Montana. Dwight Evans, he's from the OG Ducks. Calvin Tank Wilkins, he's a defensive tackle. Sorry about that, was receiving a call. He's a defensive tackle from the NTX Bills. And we've got Maxon Barte, he's a center from the Texas Seminoles.
Can't hear you.
Shelf, he's a offensive lineman from the DFW.
I can't hear.
Bruno, he's an offensive and defensive lineman from Austin, Texas. David Surgeon, he's a defensive lineman from the DFW. Aegis Mendoza, he's a offense and defensive lineman from Washington. Well, from the great state of Washington. Let me get that correct. Josiah Lassou, he's a linebacker from the Las Vegas Strong. We've got Ahmad Ford. He's a linebacker from Duncanville, Texas. We got DeMont Thomas. He's a linebacker from the great state of Indiana. We've got Dejean Taylor. He's a running back and free safety from the South Side Ducks out of the Houston area. Sorry about that. We got Xavier Shrugs. He's a running back from Mesquite, Texas. We've got Eric Bird, a running back from Virginia. Montrell Connor, a running back from Shreveport, Louisiana. Shane Parker, a wide receiver slash free safety from the RSA Knights. Nathan Green, he's a wide receiver slash DB from the great state of Louisiana. We got Braden Allen. He's a wide receiver slash DB from the DFW. Amari Juice Barnes, he's a DB slash wide receiver from Houston, Texas. Devont Jones, he's a defensive lineman from the great state of Louisiana. We've got Javon Guyton. He's a defensive lineman from San Antonio, Texas. We've got Kerry Mitchell. He's a defensive lineman from the DFW. We've got Cooper Cyphers. He's a defensive end from the DFW. Devon Proctor, a defensive line from Duncanville, Texas. Landon Billy, he's an offensive defensive line from Oklahoma City. Derek
Dejean.
Derek Dejean, he is a junior. He's a center from the Southside Ducks out of Houston. We've got Giovanni Baker. He's a middle linebacker from Houston, Texas. Chauncey King. He's a middle linebacker / fullback from the Central Texas Jets. We've got Legend Bay. He's a running back / fullback from the Syntex Jets. We've got Darion Nettles. He's a scat back from the North Texas Bills. My apologies. And we've got Caden Ellis, a slot back from Midland, Texas. We've got Kadre Brown. He's a cornerback from DeSoto, Texas. We've got Owen Cross. He's a DB / wide receiver from the DFW. We've got Royal Dunlap. He's a DB / wide receiver from Michigan City, Indiana. We've got Jaden Bobo Shaw. He's a tight end from Fort Worth, Texas. And we've got Daughtry. He's an athlete from the NTX Bills. We've got Dontrell Johnson, an athlete from the DFW. Michael Barnett. He's a junior. He's a DT from the Louisiana Pirates. We've got Randon Tatum. He's a linebacker from Central Texas. And Bubba Madrano from South Texas. He's a wide receiver. So, Coach, tell us about these picks.
First of all, you're going to see a lot of guys on here. One thing that I did not want to do, we've had a lot of kids. We will be having our college exposure camps back, and I try to include all the kids that have displayed talent, worked hard, and that I feel like still have a bright future in football in there too. So you want to have all of them. We know that on this level, you start getting kids that are starting to do other middle school sports. Maybe they're playing basketball with a high intensity to it. And you don't want them going both ways. So we really want rosters of about 30 kids, 30 to 32 kids on these teams, because we want 3 or 4 running backs. We want five receivers. We want 10 linemen, and we want, 6 DBs in a game, and then 2 or 3 linebackers. So it's going to get you about 32 kids. So that's why you see the large numbers on the draft. But when you look at this team, Jaden McLemore, man, is Kyler Murray-ish. It's a hell of a comparison when you can say Kyler Murray. He doesn't have Kyler Murray speed at all, but he does have his size and throwing ability. The kid can throw the ball. He can drop the ball in the bucket. Preston Davis is a kid with great size and athleticism that can play the quarterback position. Brent Rickard was somebody we brought in last year who is a scrambler and a playmaker with his eyes always downfield looking for another throw. And Davion Peters was hurt for a year and a half, man. He is back. He is at full strength. He is Lamar Jackson-esque. He is somebody that you have to spy, sometimes 2 spies with him. That's how dangerous he is. And then you look at the lineman, Tommy Lewis from Montana. He's massive. Dwight Evans is a road grader with the Southside Ducks. You got Calvin Tank Wilkins, who's probably one of the best D tackles. He's quick, uses his hands really well. Brock Slep is not a slept on because he's a good lineman. He played with FBU last year. He's a talented lineman. He's growing. And then you got Braydon Bueno, who is, man, I'm amazed with his size and his abilities that he has. And he's been a kid that's been in CCE for several years. David Sargent is another lineman out of the DFW area. And then you have Igisi Mendoza from Vegas Strong and Josiah Leesaw. And I know Josiah Leesaw, I know I pronounced that last name a little bit wrong, but those 2 guys are head hunters, and they both come from that Vegas Strong, Washington, D.C. area in there with it. So one's a lineman, one's a linebacker. Then you have Armani Ford. He's going to be the next one of those great Duncanville linebackers. This kid is built up like he plays football for sure. Joshua Gaines out of Indiana and Damon Thomas, man, you can't argue with the talent that they've and the commitment to wanting to compete against the best with these 2 guys. Both of them are sound players. Dejean Taylor is probably the most dynamic kid in the 2026 class. He can bang his head on the goalpost from anywhere on the field, on any play, at any time. And he is arguably one of the fastest kids in the world for his age group. He's up there. Xavier Suggs is nice. He runs the ball with very, very good pad level intensity. Eric Beard is somebody out of Virginia who I fell in love with, and somebody who I feel like will be somebody who will be signing his name on the dotted line soon. Montreal Connor is somebody who I've known for a while. I can never get him to CCE, but I'm telling you, folks, this kid is lightning in the bottle, and I just can't imagine seeing these two guys. If I could see the lightning in the bottle from Dejean Taylor and the lightning in the bottle from Montreal Connor, I'm telling you right now, they're going to stop the game for a lightning shortage because there's going to be too much of that going on. It's just serious. That's serious talent. Then you look at Shane Parker. Shane Parker was a dual threat killer for years, but now he's kind of getting himself into being that receiver who catches the ball from Jaden McLemore, and he's a long, stridey kid who's also a great baseball player. We're hoping we can get him back into the game because ultimately this is about competition and setting your track on where you are amongst your peers. Nathan Green's another good receiver out of the Louisiana area. Braden Allen missed last year, but he's a kid that had been participating all the other years. He started off as a running back, and now he's a receiver that can run routes with the best of them. And then you go to one of the best lockdown corners you can have. They went and took Juice Barnes, Amari Juice Barnes, who used to be one of the top running backs. Now he is one of the top DBs, I feel like, in this class. Donovan Jones opens up holes. Javon Guyton, big, strong kid. Kerry Mitchell's a kid that we need to get in more CCE events. He's one of the better inner city linemen. Played with, I think, the DFW Ravens or whoever it was. Cooper Cyphers is growing, and it looks like J.J. Watt. Plays like J.J. Watt. Devon Proctor, another good solid lineman. Landon Billy, probably arguably one of the top 5 best linemen in Oklahoma. Then you have the Mr. Dean, who can get the ball there. One of my favorites, a kid that we missed last year. His body has always been bigger than everybody else, and he's probably still working to still be that guy, and he is that guy. That's Giovanni Baker. We hope to see him back. He is a concussion specialist. He can play that power back spot, but I think his future is going to rely on him being a linebacker, and if he continues to grow, who knows? I've always said that I like linebackers that can grow into D tackles. We don't know if that's going to be the case with him, but he definitely does have the talent level to be able to pull it off. Then you look at Chauncey King. This is a kid who can play 12U, but he's an 8th grader. He can come off the edge as an outside linebacker. Legend Bay is somebody who's been ripping the North Texas City apart for 2 or 3 years. He's somebody you can put out in the backfield. You can give him screens. He's a scat back type of runner. And same thing with a Darian Nettles. Haven't seen him in a couple years, but he's back doing some things with the Bills. Caden Ellis is a small receiver, but he is a Wes Walker type of guy who can go the distance. Corday Brown is another solid corner for them. And then you got Owen Koss and Royal Dunlap, 2 other good corners. Jaden Bobo Shaw has been playing receiver, quarterback, but he is building his body into being a top-notch tight end. Don't be shocked if he's a varsity player in a year from now. Kriston Daughtry plays quarterback, can play. He's an athlete, plays a lot of different positions. Dontrell Johnson the same way. Michael Bonet Jr. is somebody you must attain for in the middle of the field. He clogs up the middle. Then you got Random Tatum, who's another heat-seeking linebacker. And then lastly, you have Bubba Madrano, who is, I think, out of West Texas, South Texas, who is more than just a possession receiver, folks. He's in and out of breaks, all really, really quick. This is a good team.
A very, very good team. A lot of big-name players. Well, we're going to go ahead and move forward onto Team Power. Coach, what Texas University do they represent?
Okay, let me get to them real quick. And what is Power? Power represents that great area of DFW, SMU, the undefeated, the best team in Texas right now.
SMU. All right, Coach. Let's get to your coaching staff. We're going to have Coach Edwards, Coach KT, and Coach Tank. Tell us about these 3 gentlemen.
Well, Sean Twix Edwards, man, we've been rocking for about 8 years now with 7-on-7 and everything. And his son is one of the premier quarterbacks in the 2022 class. and his son's a senior at Mesquite. He's done 7-on-7. He's done the tackle football thing with the Mesquite Gamecocks, and he's a guy that's played baseball and football, knows the game, and somebody who 3 or 4 years ago, he won it all, playing with team money. He's back to help out and give back to these younger kids and still show that he has it to these young whippersnappers. And another guy who's done it on a big-time level has been one of the only people he's probably produced, especially in the recent last 6 years, at least 15 to 20 kids that are playing big-time football on big-time levels and on the college level right now. And that's KT Thompson as a D coordinator with the Dallas Lions, formerly known as the Pleasant Grove Lions or PG Lions. He and Coach Shannon. KT is a defensive guru. He's an old school guy. He's a no-nonsense guy. And he's a guy I think that's going to be the perfect transitional coach for these kids who are getting ready to get into high school. No more of the, he's going to tell you what it is. And he knows the game on both sides of the ball, but we're going to be looking for his expertise, I think, mostly on defense. And then you have Coach Tank. Coach Tank is another guy, man. If you want to know about Houston, especially north side of Houston football, and who is talented, who's not talented, that guy has them. He knows about them. He's heavy in the FBU. And I think with
the
that
state championship with the Texas Pines last year, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Over with Jay Mickens.
So, with Jay Mick. So that's going to be a good group, man. They don't know each other. Coach KT and Sean do, but they don't know Tank. But I'm telling you, in this game, I think what you see on these drafts, first of all, everybody has a great – it's to me, it's just a combination of talent on every team. You can't go wrong. Like if you can't win with these kind of teams, it's because of your coach. It has nothing to do with the kid.
Hey, that may be true, man. There are a lot of big-name players. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get to the picks. We're going to start off with quarterback from Houston, Texas, Caden Baker. We've got Legend Howell, quarterback from DEA. Amari Bohannon, he's a quarterback for Bohannon. Sorry about that. He's a quarterback from the Wichita Cowboys. Jaden Big Red Randall, he's a defensive tackle, offensive guard from DeSoto, Texas. We've got Chris Lart. He's a offense and defensive lineman from El Paso, Texas. We've got Solo Panama. He's a defense and offensive line from the Vegas Strong. We've got Bartrell Smith. He's a defensive lineman, offensive lineman from Oklahoma City. We've got Tayon King. He's a defensive end from the Southside Ducks. We've got Damon Jimenez. He's a center from Houston, Texas. We got Kaysen Dickinson. He's a offense and defensive lineman from Duncanville, Texas. We've got Connor Broke. He's a offense and defensive lineman from Indiana. We've got Christopher Harris. He's a linebacker from Christopher Harris. He's a linebacker from the North Texas Bills. We've got Chase Stevens. He's a linebacker from the Southside Ducks. We've got Japri Wafer. He's a middle linebacker from the RSA Knights. Javon Holmes. He's a linebacker from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We've got Cedric Mcclintock. Did I get that correct? Coach, help me out with that one.
Cedric Mcclintock Jr.
Mcclintock Jr. He's a running back from the Southside Ducks. We've got Hayden West. He's a running back from Fort Worth, Texas. Aaron Deuce Bohannon. He's a running back from Wichita Falls. We've got Mayor Morgan. He's a scat back from the I-35 Jackpot Boys. We've got Madden Morgan. He's a wide receiver / middle linebacker from the Southside Ducks. We got Zaire McKinney. He's a wide receiver / DB from the great state of Indiana. We've got Jermaine Bishop. He's a junior. He's a slot back from the Southside Ducks. We've got Antron Edmonson. He's a wide receiver from DeSoto, Texas. We've got Christian Spites. He's a offense and defensive lineman from Sting Academy in Louisiana. We've got Clayton Jones Jr. He is a offense and defensive lineman from Mesquite, Texas. We've got Xavion Scott. He's an offensive lineman from DeSoto, Texas. We've got Jarius Singletary. He's a defensive lineman, offensive lineman from the Southside Ducks. Christopher Russell, my boy Christopher Russell, defensive end from the Southside Ducks and former Beast Boy. I think they're coming back. We've got Chaney Smiley. He's a offense and defensive lineman from Mesquite, Texas. We've got Andre, and help me pronounce that last name, Coach. He's from Houston, Texas.
I want to say Moyika.
Andre Moyika. He's an offense and defensive lineman from Houston, Texas. We've got Javen Shields. He's a linebacker from the DFW. Robert McFarland. He's a linebacker from Houston, Texas. George Ziegler. He's a running back from Mesquite, Texas. We've got Tiandre Thomas. He's a running back from Killeen, Texas. We've got Xander Elliott. He's a tight end from the DFW. We've got Cole Robinson. He's a DB/slot back from the Southside Ducks out of the Houston area. Charlie Abraham. He's a wide receiver DB from Sting Academy. And we've got Alan Haynes. He's a cornerback/wide receiver from Houston, Texas. Schuler CJ Turnbull. He's an athlete from the I-35 Jackpot Boys. And Traden Ball. He's an athlete from Texarkana, Texas. And we've got Dante Ware, wide receiver/DB from Houston, Texas. Marcus, help me with that last name, Coach.
Marcus Gadlin.
He's a running back from Houston, Texas. And True World, he's a safety from Lancaster, Texas, Coach. So tell us about this team that you've assembled here.
Well, it's a dang good draft. You can look at the draft and you can see that they went heavy. DeSoto, Mesquite, Southside Ducks type of thing in there. So you got Kaiden Barker, who used to be the quarterback with the Southside Ducks. He's one of the top quarterbacks around. You got Legend Howe, who's the DEA quarterback, who I think very highly of, who's slinging the ball around in DISD school district right now as well. And then you got Amari Bohannon, who's rated really high out of Wichita, with the Wichita Cowboys organization in the Wichita, Kansas area. So you have three different quarterbacks who all can get the job done in that situation to it. Then you start off with one of the baddest D linemen around, Jaden Big Red, who's nobody sweeter. Jaden Big Red Randall, out of DeSoto McCowan. Chris Lara is a monster from El Paso. Solo Panama is Vegas Strong's one of their most elite linemen. And then Brent Smith is probably the most athletic big guy you're ever going to run across. Tayon King is a headhunter. Jimenez is going to get the ball there to you and going to open up holes for you. Kason Dickens is an athlete playing on the line. Connor Broke is somebody who you can depend on and get them holes open. Christopher Harris Jr. is a linebacker that can play running back. We call him a power back because of his athleticism and talent, but I think he's going to be a Division I linebacker. Then you go look at the other power back that they have. Besides Christopher Harris Jr. is Chase Stevens, another linebacker who is super athletic, who can tote the rock. Japri Wafer is a banger from RSA. He's a headbanger. He's a thumper in the middle. Javen Holmes is another sideline-to-sideline running, tackling guy. Cedric McClintock Jr. is a big back. He seems like he's been 5'10", 180 since he's been in third grade. That's what it seems like. He has the ability to play quarterback, but I think they're going to be using this kid this year on this team as a running back, hitting that hole, going downhill with that big body. Hayden West, he doesn't have to go north. He doesn't have to go south. He doesn't have to go east. He can always go west. And that's whichever way is home, it's his best way. He is a home run hitter. He has his own navigation system. And then you got Aaron Deuce Bohannon, a kid who is nice, who's ripping it up. He is a younger brother to Amari Bohannon. And then you got Mayor Morgan, who is a scat back who can fit through keyholes. Madden Morgan is one of the top linemen. I think he's an FBU All-American. He's going to be doing that game. Zaire McKinney is another talented receiver out of that way. Then you got Jermaine Bishop Jr. You guys know, if you know anything about CCE, you know I rock with this dude to the wheels fall off. He's been a bad boy since he came out the womb, and he's still a bad boy. I mean, slap him every once in a while just to let him know to get back in line. That's how bad of a boy he is. Then from there, Besides Jermaine Bishop Jr., let me get back on that list. Antron Edmonson. Folks, y'all don't know who this kid is. This kid is one of the most dynamic receivers, athletes you're going to see. You punt the ball to him, get out the kicking tee because it's an extra point waiting to happen. He's nice. Christian Spade, great quality lineman. Clayton Jones, Xavier Scott, Jared Singletary, Christopher Russell, a pass rushing in, Chance Smalley, Andre. Those are all linemen that they're trying to go heavy with. They won't get all of them. Not all these kids are going to participate. So you got to overdraft for a team of about 32 kids. But they've done a great job in this draft with it. Javen Shields is a tackling machine. Robert McFarland, I like him and his brother. He's a downhill runner with the ball and a tackler. George Ziegler from Mesquite, another running back. Chiantre. Xander Elliott is like 6'9" probably now. Tight end out of the Keller area. Corey Robinson, they pick on him all the time, but he makes them pay when they pick on him. He's an absolute ball hog for the ball, folks. He's maybe little in stature, but he's a ball hog. Then you round this thing off by going Charlie Abraham, receiver, Sting Academy. Allen Hayes, one of the best DBs around. A straight goon. Skylar Turnbull, who can play every position. Tredarian Ball is one of the best running backs in the East Texas area. Nobody really knew about him until last year. He came on and turned it up. Dante Ware is a playmaker. Marcus Gatlin is a running back who's been nice since ever. And then you finish it off with a hard-hitting signal caller, a guy who can control the back end with True Word out of Lancaster. Good draft.
Man, a solid draft. But we're going to go ahead and move on to Team Hustle. CCE Team Hustle. So what university of the great state of Texas will they represent?
The Longhorns, Texas Longhorns. They've taken a couple hits to the chin, but everybody loves that icy white uniform in Texas. You can't knock it, man. And we're going to have some pretty icy whites form in our situation. So it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome to be able to see these kids representing, playing in these uniforms.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's get to the coaches. We're going to have the 2026 coaching staff for Team Hustle, Coach Grubbs, Coach Fisher, and Coach Tucker. Tell us about this coaching staff, Coach.
Well, David Grubbs is coaching on the high school level. He's done it on the youth level, man, for years. If you know anything about Grubbs, he knows his stuff, and he's going to have talent. And he's going to make talent look better than what the talent is, which is hard because the kind of kids he's coached have been major, big-time players. Then you have Coach Brandon Tucker. Brandon Tucker is one of the top lineman trainers there is with his academy and stuff like that, man. It's out here in Dallas. He trains several of the Dallas Cowboys, and you'll see him around training some of the top 4 and 5 stars and creating the new set of 4 and 5 stars with his training methods and stuff like that on the interior line, primarily on the defensive line. And then you finish it off.
Slide me his number after this stream.
I will do that. And then you look at it and you go from a standpoint of Fred Fisher being the guy out of Houston, played at University of Houston, has coached some of the best youth football teams over the last 10 to 12 years that you could think of, and is a defensive guru. So that staff is going to have an offensive guru, a defensive guru, and a D-line, interior line guru. That's a nice match. It's a nice trio of players together. And I don't know if they've even met yet, but I can tell you once they see this draft class that they have, they're going to be excited with it. And to me, it's just all about now recruitment, trying to get these kids signed up to participate in the most competitive youth football all-star series there is.
Most definitely. And it will be live here on Semi-Pro Live. But without further ado, let's get to the draft. We're going to start off with the quarterback group. Darren Rogers from Houston, Texas. Kane Archer, quarterback from the Kansas City Outlaws. We'll have Darion Lewis, quarterback from the I-35 Jackpot Boys. Keelan Davis, he's a quarterback from DeSoto, Texas. Jaden Dillon, he's an offense and defensive lineman from the New Orleans Dolphins. Dominic Ruth, he's a defensive end from the New Orleans Dolphins. Garrett Foley, he's an offensive lineman from the North Texas Bills. We've got Teddy Welch. He's an offense and defensive lineman from Washington Park, Florida. We've got Jermaine Till. Jermaine Till Jr. He's a defensive end from the DFW. We've got Gavin Gregory. He's a center from Houston, Texas. Byron Nelson. He's a offensive guard from Cedar Hill, Texas. Ernesto Chavez. He's a linebacker from Dallas, Texas. Dietrich Brown, he's a linebacker from the Southside Ducks. Ja'Carry Till, he's a linebacker from Kaylene, Texas. Keith Youngblood Jr., he's a linebacker from Cedar Hill, Texas. Brock King, he's a running back from the Southside Ducks. Caleb Smith, he's a running back from Allen, Texas. Jerron J.J. Campbell, he's a running back from Atlanta, Georgia. A.J. Coates, he's a power back from the Kansas City Outlaws. Josiah Donfro, he's a wide receiver and linebacker from GBT. Braden Robinson, he's a wide receiver and cornerback from Red Oak, Texas. Clayton Johnson, he's a cornerback and wide receiver from the Southside Ducks. Jermaine Smith, Smith Jackson, he's a wide receiver and DV from the DFW. Marquel Ballark, he's a offense and defensive lineman from the Kansas City Outlaws. Nigel Marshall, he's a offense and defensive lineman from New Orleans Dolphins. Terrence Summers, he's a defensive end from Arkansas. And Coach, help me out with this last name from the Kansas City Outlaws. I don't want to disrespect that family. Let's get it right.
Akiri Fubiashi.
All right, he's an offense and defensive lineman from the Kansas City Outlaws. Christian Walsh Jr., he's a offensive defensive lineman from the Kansas City Outlaws as well. Lamar Brown, defensive lineman, offensive lineman, Louisiana. Antonio, help me out with that last name, Coach. Najaro from
Antoine Nahara.
Nahara. He's an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
He's an offensive lineman from Houston, Texas. Dominic Isaac, he's a outside linebacker from Fort Worth, Texas. Gregory Wells, he's a linebacker from Houston, Texas. Coach, help me with the last name.
Rudy Soleil,
he's a linebacker from Louisiana. Narco Nitro Dunn, he's a linebacker from New Orleans. AJ Marks, he's a running back from Southfield Falcons. Paris Melvin, he's a DB from GBT. Ashton Kelly, he's a tight end from Mesquite, Texas. Kingston McAdams, he's a DB wide receiver from Duncanville, Texas. Dwight Wiley Jr., he's a cornerback / wide receiver from Houston, Texas. Danny, Coach, help me out with that last name.
Orozco,
a wide receiver / DB from San Antonio, Texas. Isaiah Davis, wide receiver from the great state of California. Stephen Carroll, fullback, outside linebacker, Kansas City Outlaws. Jamaric Planter, he's an athlete from the great state of Louisiana. And Caden Bryant, he's a left tackle. Coach, tell me about this team.
Talented, man. It's talented. This team is going to be built around, first of all, man, the quarterbacks. You know, we have a lot of quarterbacks because in years past we've had 6 teams. But because of the inconsistency when they get to be in those older years, you don't know if they're going to do it or not and everything else. You have to overdraft for the quarterback spot. But Darion Rogers is somebody – man, who can sling the ball. You would never think in a million years that this kid is slinging the ball, but he can sling the ball, and he's a winner. He's normally played up under Jarvis, but this year he's playing up under David Grubbs. And then you got Darion Lewis, who's a linebacker. I don't know if he's going to stay at quarterback his entire time, but I do know that he's a hell of a football player. So you can put him at linebacker, rover, strong safety. You probably can even give him some carries at running back. He's the ultimate team player. He's going to do whatever it takes to win. But when you ask him to get under center and get the ball, he can do things that can help you win games, whether it's throwing it or running it. Keelan Davis is long, slim, but can sling the ball, and the timing that he and Antron Edmonson had and his ability to move in the pocket was really, really what amazed me and wanted me to have to offer him. And then, the creme de la creme of the creme de la creme, a kid with already 2 offers already, Kane Archer out of Arkansas. I mean, man, this kid is Roger Staubach, if you go back that far. This kid is Johnny Manziel, if you want to be in recent history. This kid.
Don't Manziel him, coach. He's going to have a long career.
I'm talking about Johnny Manziel that went in the Heisman as a freshman.
I'm
talking about Johnny Manziel beating Alabama. I'm talking about Johnny Manziel lighting up the SEC out of a small school. This is that kid. This kid can run the ball, but he will scramble and throw the ball better than anybody I've seen throw the ball on the run. He's a talent. He's a talent. He's a super stud. There's not many people his peers who don't know about him. If you haven't heard about him, you need to read about him. You haven't read about him, you need to pray about him. Because I'm trying to tell you right now, he's the type of kid that will be playing for a long time. That rounds out the quarterbacks. Then you got Jaden Dillon, man. I really do love this kid out of New Orleans Dolphins and Dominic Root, their running partners. So taking them two side by side, it's always good. Gary Foley is a massive man who is hard to move. He will be somebody that can open up some holes. Teddy Welch is somebody I found from Washington Park, Florida. He could be one of the most dynamic linemen we have in this thing. Jeremy Till is a defensive end that you have to deal with. This kid is a pass rushing guru. Gavin Gregory is a solid center. Byron Nelson is still one of the strongest and meanest linemen you're going to run across. Ernesto Chavez is the tackling machine. We call him Chapo. Dietrich Brown is one of the best-looking linebackers, along with Jakari Till and Kenneth Youngblood. That is a tackling machine group that's athletic, and Jakari Till can also give you 5 to 10 carries a game, especially if it's cold or especially if the game's on the line. You give him the ball, you need 3, he's getting you 3.5, guaranteed. Brock King, bang your head on the goalpost type of kid. He is special. He is special. He spelled his special with SH. Sure. You got to come with something different. He just can't be the regular CIAL. He's different. He's different. Caleb Smith is one of the fastest kids around. He can turn the corner on almost anybody. And he got his first offer from Utah the other day. I mean, he's going to be in the Allen system. Then you got Jerrion J.J. Campbell. He's probably the biggest and baddest back out of the Atlanta area. He came here 2 years ago and left with the most valuable trophy, most outstanding player award. He's a bad boy. Then you got A.J. Coates. This kid can tote the ball. He can tote the mail. He can bring home the mail. He is a breadwinner. You have to bring your hard hat when you want to hit him. Then you go look at the kid, Josiah Dunfrio. He is a physical specimen. He can play both sides of the ball. But at receiver, he looks like the receiver that the the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted 2 years ago out of Notre Dame. He's a physical specimen. Then you go to the fastest man in the world, the absolute world, out of Red Oak, Texas, and Braden Robinson. He is a slot-tician. He is a reverse. He is a blur with like 18 R's behind it. He is the fastest kid in the world. It is not for argument. If you want to go argue with somebody, go argue with your granny. He is the fastest kid in the world. Then you go to Clayton Johnson, who I feel is the best cover corner, best DB prospect in the class. Jamani Smith is a playmaker out of the DFW area. Baylor, Kansas City Outlaw. Nigel Matshaw is a dog D lineman, O lineman out of New Orleans. Trent Simmers is somebody who can come off the edge from Arkansas. Akiri Fuji. Now I can't get it out after messing with you and your names. Bayashi. He plays with the Outlaws, but he is also out of Kane Archer's area, so that was good for them two to be drafted in that same thing, trying to get it to where you can get that team together, because synergy brings the best energy, gives you the best chance of winning. Lamar Brown is another kid. Chris Walsh is another good lineman. Lamar Brown is a talented D lineman. Nahara, another great lineman. Demrick Isaac, probably 6'25" right now, and he is running like a deer still, coming off edges, can play receiver, can play running back. Gregory Wells, Brody Soleil, Narco Nitro, are all solid linebackers from New Orleans and Louisiana and Houston. AJ Marks, this team drafted speed. This team, let me say this. Kane Archer,
burners.
in that group, they drafted speed. They drafted speed. And if you know what I know, speed does what? It kills. Paris Melvin, I love this kid, loved him all the way through. GBT, smaller kid, but he is like a Buddha. He's like a Buddha Baker in your secondary. All right. Kingston McAdams is making noise on both sides of the ball in Duncanville. Ashton Kelly is a for real tight end out of Mesquite. Dwight Wiley is a natural corner. So you got two great cover corners. Danny Orozco is a great possession receiver. Isaiah Davis catches the ball at the highest point bet than anybody. Stephen Carroll from KFC gives you that chance to be able to mix it up. He could be that bruiser, that fullback, that pounder in front of those fast backs. Jamarcia Platter is a kid you just give the ball to in some kind of way, jet sweeps, reverses, or whatever. He makes a play. And then the left tackle, who is super nice, who is a true left tackle, Caden Bryant. That is the team. Man, there's speed on that team. For real. For real.
And they anchored him with some nice linemen to protect that quarterback. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and move on to the final team of the 2026 draft. Now, this is going to be Team Grind. Now, Coach, let us know what Texas team is going to represent Team Grind.
Houston, Texas, wearing all red, baby.
Okay, they're going to have on the Ohio State Scarlet.
Yeah, the Houston Cougars, man, you know. And with these coaches, they're probably going to bring back the run and shoot, man, with, some Andre Ware type stuff, man. And what was the other quarterback who won it after David? Was it Klingler? They're going to be doing something like that with this team they have.
All right, well, let's get to the coaches. We're going to have Jarvis King and Brandon Dixon. Tell us about this coaching staff.
Jarvis King won it last year. His coaching staff won it last year. And so whenever you win it, you got to come back. You got to come back. You got to give somebody else a second chance, you know what I'm saying, to get their lick back, as they say. But he is a guy, man, who is he's not old, but he's young. But then again, he's not young. He's done it for a while. And he always is around great Houston talent. He knows it. He knows how to cultivate it, if I could say that as a word in there to it. He knows how to, it's great. It's great farmland. You got the great seeds in there, but he cultivates it so that it makes it happen on a high level. That is he's an offensive guy. So he's going to put points up on the board, and he's going to, and one thing I love about most of these offensive coordinators that we have in CCE, you don't have 15 practices to get the thing in. You got to be able to get in a system that can be user-friendly and learner-friendly, and then be able to have that system also meet the type of player you have. And I think that's what happened in this draft. They had a dang good draft, and Brandon Dixon is a guy who's up in the North Texas area, has a team that puts up a lot of points, has a lot of talent on his team, and I look for them two to be together and make a great combination and try to bring home that hardware again for back-to-back years. This will be Jarvis's third year winning if he wins it this year, 3 in a row.
All right, man. Well, that's an awesome coaching staff. We're going to go ahead and get to the stars of the draft. And you know what? It's crazy. You're going to start off the draft with the quarterback group, and at random, we got my guy on here, Angelo Renda. He is a quarterback from South Lake, Texas, future South Lake Carroll Dragon. He'll start off the quarterbacks. We'll have Caleb Turner, quarterback from the great state of Virginia. Cameron Renfro, a quarterback / free safety from the Houston area. We're going to have Ray Klein Galore. He's a quarterback / athlete from the RSA Knights. We're going to have Kaylene Curtis. He's a defensive lineman, offensive lineman from the Kansas City Outlaws. We're going to have Nicholas Robinson. He's an offensive lineman from the Houston area. We're going to have Dominic Walker. He's an offensive lineman from Lewisville, Texas. We're going to have DeAndre Griffin. He's a offense and defensive lineman from the Valdosta Vikings. Let me not choke on that one. We're going to have James Jordan. He's a defensive end from Houston, Texas. We're going to have Bryce Steele. He's a defensive tackle, offensive guard from DEA. And, Coach, I'm going to let you pronounce your very own guy. He's the next one up. I believe it's Poy. And his last name is Chico. Chico.
Yeah, Chico is what we call him.
Poy Chico. Defensive end, offensive lineman, DEA. We're going to have Diego Vasquez. He's a center from Dallas, Texas. Braden and
Tolo.
He's an offense and defensive end from the Vegas Strong. We're going to have Adrian Holmes, a linebacker from the Vegas Strong. We're going to have Karan Whitaker. He's a defensive lineman, a outside linebacker from DeSoto, Texas. We're going to have Samuel Wright III. He's an offensive lineman from Houston, Texas. We're going to have Kadre Mack. He's a running back slash linebacker from Houston, Texas. We're going to have Deshaun DJ Butler. He's a running back from GBT. We're going to have Rakeith Kelly. He's a running back from South Carolina. We're going to have Javari Henderson. He's a fullback slash linebacker from West Texas. Coach, help me out with this first name.
Tamaj
Jackson. He's a wide receiver slash DB from New Orleans. We're going to have Jaden Hambrick. He's a DB slash wide receiver from the RSA Knights. We're going to have Ramel Tipton. He's a wide receiver slash safety from Lancaster, Texas. Levon Morton. He's a cornerback slash slot receiver from the North Texas Bills. We're going to have Scotland Dover. He's a offensive lineman slash defensive lineman from South Carolina. And we're going to have Dejean Moore. He's an offensive lineman from Houston, Texas. Landon Freeman. He's an offensive and defensive lineman from Dallas, Texas. Dominique Ruth. He's a offensive defensive lineman from New Orleans, Louisiana. We're going to have Andre. Coach, help me out with that last name.
Morris. Andre Mojak. I can't pronounce it. Moika.
All right. Yeah, I had the Morris one, Coach. Hey, I'm going to say this right now, and because I have some time to get it right. So, kids, if I mispronounced your name and I messed it up, I'm going to have something for you at the draft. But you have to register and actually show up to CCE to get it. So if I murdered your name, my severe apologies. Semi-Pro Live, we're going to have something for you at CCE. But let's get back to the names. We've got Eric Adcock. See, that's another thing I got to go by. So, he's an offensive lineman from Dallas, Texas. Martin Davis Wheatfall. He's a linebacker from Houston, Texas. Jaquan Martinez. He's a junior linebacker from Austin, Texas. Jatavius Harris. He's a rover kick returner from Dallas, Texas. Kamari May. He's a running back from Denver, Colorado. Uriah Bertain. He's a running back from Louisiana. Xavier Tiggy Davis. He's a slot back from Dallas, Texas. Heaven Garrett. He's a tight end from Mesquite, Texas. Jamari Stewart. He's a cornerback from the North Texas Bills. Tashad Gerardo. He's a free safety slash defensive end. From the Lightning Elite. Let me get that correct. Caden Hilber. He's from the DFW. Elijah Gonzalez. He's a wide receiver slash DB from the Eagles. Jalen Moore. He's a wide receiver from the North Texas Bills slash DeSoto, Texas. Caden Anderson. He's a wide receiver from Houston, Texas. And Uriah Bullops. He's a running back slash linebacker from Barnett, Mississippi. And like I said, if I messed up your name, my severe apologies, folks. I can't tell you what we're going to have. We will have something for all the kids that we messed up their names. Shout out, we need sponsors. But let's go ahead and get back to it, Coach. Tell us about this team.
Angelo Renda.
My dog.
Yeah, he can sling the ball, man. You know, most athlete quarterbacks, they can sling the ball.
Oh, yeah, he got one of these. He got one of these, national champion.
Yeah. And, you know, he's done the FBU thing, and I saw him last year competing. I love his moxie. Caleb Tucker is a talented quarterback out of Virginia, and I always say this, and I'm gonna say it again. If you get kids who you offer from way outside of Texas, they're not the average person. They're different, and this kid is different. Cameron Renfro is a kid that can play free safety or play quarterback. He's a leader. He can throw the ball. He can make plays with his feet. He's a playmaker. And then you have the ultimate playmaker, the guy who scares everybody because if he's at quarterback and the play breaks down, my God, Racine Guillory is that kind of guy that he makes you grab the person next to you, and he has moves and things that make you start sounding like Urkel, and I call them oops, did I do that moves, then you go look at Kaylene Curtis out of Kansas City Outlaws, one of the top, most dominant linemen you're going to run across. Nicholas Robertson may be a future first-round draft pick lineman. Dominic Walker is massive and can open up holes for anybody. DeAndre Griffin from Valdosta, Georgia, with the Valdustin Vikings, is a road grader. So you have the protection you need. James Jordan comes off the edge with bad intentions. Bryson Steele is with DEA, but he's a bad boy. There's not going to be a lot of run lanes there for when you're dealing with him. Then you got Chico, who is a quality two-way player, offensive line, defensive end, strong kid, team player. Diego Vasquez is a center from Dallas. Brady and Talatolo is a outside linebacker, DN. So now you accompany him with James Jordan, and you have something that the Steelers want. The Steelers used to have. You have that situation where they are going to get to the quarterback with bad intentions. Adrian Holmes is a run sideline to sideline tackler. Q Whitaker is a long, lanky kid who can play outside, rush. He's versatile with his talents. Samuel Wright is another outside linebacker. So they're going to have a rotation on backers. I can tell you that right now. Or they could put them at end and go small and rush the pass. Carde Mack. Return of the Mack. He's a bad, bad boy. Last year's MOP, most outstanding player. Carde Mack out of Humble. Been rocking with this kid and knowing about this kid for a time. Great family, great kid. Jarvis, you got your guy again. All right. Then you go to Deshaun Butler. This kid's been rocking with me for a long time. Deshaun Butler, if he's back from that injury like I think he will be by this time, you run across a guy who's a two-way player. He'll tackle you, and he will break tackles from you. That's Deshaun Butler. And then you got Keith. Don't kick it to him, Kiki Kelly. The baddest thing on the East Coast. He is bad out of South Carolina. Used to be with the Rockburger League. This kid is doing stuff. He's playing with JV kids, killing everybody right now, y'all. He is different. Javari Henderson can open up holes and plug the holes. Tamaz Jackson may be the most dynamic receiver in the whole 2026 class. He is special. Jaden Hambrick is a tackling machine at DB. Romeo Timpton is an absolute headhunter who now runs routes and has the speed to get lost. Levon Martin is one of the top corners around. Scotland Dover is a bookend tackle, and you can if you can get Scotland Dover and Nicholas Robertson together, you create an opportunity that's different. Really, really different. Really, 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 really different. Dejean Moore is a big body lineman that can open up holes. You can be big enough to drive trucks through. Landon Freeman is another big lineman. Dominic Ruth is one of the top linemen you're going to see out of New Orleans. Jaden Morris is another good lineman, solid with technique. Eric Adcock is somebody we've been rocking with for a while. Missed him last year. He'll be back this year. Martin Davis Whitfall is a tackling machine along with Jaquin Martinez. John Tavis Harris, you can roll him down. You can play him in a lot of different spots. He is a honey badger type of player. Kamari May, if we ever can get him here out of Denver, this kid is somebody who I felt like is special. I want to see how he competes versus the elite, though. That's what I want to see. Elijah Brenton out of Louisiana is a big back that has bad intentions. Xavier Tiggy Davis is a slot and inside slot corner that makes plays. You try him, and then he makes you pay. Tashai Guerrero is a playmaker from Lightning Elite. Caden Hilborn is somebody who's a good DB. Elijah Gonzalez, wide receiver. Pompano Eagles out of Florida, who is nice. California. Jalen Moore, J-Mo, is one of the top 20 prospects probably in the 2022 class out of DeSoto. You got to double him, man. Kanye Anderson out of Houston, and then you got Uriah Billups, another big-time back out of Mississippi. And I told y'all, when you get those guys from those areas, you know they mean business. Jarvis, you nasty for this draft you got here, man. You got the receivers you need. You got the big backs, you got the smaller backs. But I know what you tried to do with this draft. You would have got a defense that could rush the passer, and you wouldn't have got an offensive line that could neutralize your own defense. You dirty. You wouldn't have got some Kelvin Banks and some Dewberries, and you wouldn't have got and you got a Denver Harris, you know, and you got a Tank running back. I see what you're doing. You're trying to bring back that team you had with them Outlaws and all them teams back in the day. I see it.
Sharp as
I respect it. Good draft. All 4 teams are loaded with talent.
Man, an awesome group of kids, athletes across the board. Excited to see how this one turns out once they get on the field. But once again, be on the lookout for CCE coming to you. We've got how many more drafts, Coach? We got 2 more?
3 more.
Or 3 more drafts.
6U, 7U, 8U drafts left.
And we're going to finish that this week. Producer,
we got to knock it out.
We're going to knock it out this week.
Let's knock out that 7 and 8U. You guys, and here's my thing to it.
7 and 8U tomorrow.
We're looking for some of the younger players on the 6U level in particular. We need more players, linebackers, thankless positions, linebackers, receivers, tacklers. Yeah,
I got a lineman, but he's not thankless. He's
linebackers, receivers, linemen. We need more of those on the 6U and 7U level, you guys. So submit that film. Let's get these kids in here. And then once we get them invited, let's get them registered so that everything can be back on time. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. Once again, Semi-Pro Live, man, y'all on point.
All right. Well, hey, folks, we are still booking for this weekend. Hit us up if you're trying to have your game or event booked this weekend. Inbox us. As far as things on the docket, we will have the Crimson Tide. That infamous 10U team is looking to bounce back as they'll have homecoming. See it live right here on Semi-Pro Live. And we'll also have Baby Gronk for the first time ever is going to be in a game that will be live streamed. So not just highlights, you're going to get an opportunity to see him live and live in color right here. And we'll be, I gotta check my clock, in about 2 hours, we'll have Wednesday Night Lights live from DeSoto, Texas. Now, one other thing before I go, I noticed that draft had a lot of DeSoto McAllen players, so you're a very happy man, Courtney.
No, I'm not happy because we should have more. We should have more. We should have more,
just like 50%, you know. All right,
they say
Coach.
this: if your hometown not messing with you, then you're not really real.
That's real. So I need to get some Akron people down here. Blimp City, holla at Courtney. We'll see you guys next time on Semi-Pro Live.
All right, buddy.